When Dr. H. William Song entered the world of regenerative aesthetics, he reshaped the future of beauty itself. A true pioneer in fat transfer, stem cell therapy, and the popular vampire PRP treatments, Dr. Song has been at the forefront of innovation. On this episode of The Significance, he shares how the fusion of medicine, art, and science is redefining the way we age. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. The Significance with Tyler and Signy starts now. Welcome to The Significance. Today we are joined by Dr. H. William Song, an innovator at the forefront of regenerative and aesthetic medicine. Founder of Omni Aesthetics, Dr. Song is known for pioneering non-surgical treatments using PRP, stem cells, and advanced laser technology. He trains doctors worldwide and is trusted by clients, from everyday people to public figures, who rely upon his expertise to restore both appearance and confidence. Dr. Song, welcome. We're so happy you've joined us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yes, Dr. Song, we're so excited to talk to you about a lot of interesting things. So you practiced family and geriatric medicine for 15 years. What led you to pivot to aesthetic and regenerative medicine?
So most doctors would tell you that they wanted to be a doctor since they were a kid. Actually, I wanted to be an artist, but I love science. So my parents wanted me to be a doctor, so I chose that route. And I did that for 15 years, and I don't regret it because it was an incredible experience being able to actually be a doctor, help people, save lives, and all that. But my passion was really to do something more creative. So, so when I had the opportunity to switch over to aesthetics, I took it, and it was a big leap, but I felt that that was what I needed to do at the time.
In terms of being an artist, what medium did you like to work in?
I liked to work in many different mediums. Acrylics, oils. I like to sculpt as well. And I did a lot of technical stuff with airbrush, and that was before computer art came along, and then I started getting into more of the computer stuff as well.
That's wonderful. How did your background in internal medicine influence the way you approach cosmetic procedures today?
So when I became a doctor, like all doctors, we took an oath, and in the Hippocratic Oath, and first do no harm. That's one of the main principles of being a doctor. And I think a lot of doctors, especially in the field of cosmetic and aesthetics, kind of forget that, especially if they've never actually worked with sick patients and people
Right.
that needed them. So I think that really grounded me, and I kind of keep that in mind. Even though I'm doing cosmetic treatments, I always want to make sure that I'm doing right by the patient. I want to make sure that what I'm doing for them is going to enrich their lives, not make it worse or give them a complex or feed into a complex that they may have.
That makes a lot of sense. I can see how sculpting and airbrushing, a lot of keywords that you use that are keywords in your artistry now. I mean, you are, in certain ways an artist still.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it makes sense. And was there a certain moment or a patient that really sparked your interest or gave you that push to really make that transition into more aesthetics?
Well, I mean, like I said, I practiced internal medicine for 15 years, and I enjoyed what I was doing, and I think I was pretty good at it too. But I always had that itch to do something. And then I met another doctor, an obstetrician, who showed me that he was doing some cosmetic procedures, and he said that he stopped delivering babies and he's doing lasers, and I was fascinated. I said, "Don't you have to be a plastic surgeon to do that?" And he said, "This is a whole new field. They don't teach these things in plastic surgery residency." So
Right.
that really sparked an interest because it was something new, something exciting, and it was something that was right up my alley. So I started learning about this and realized, hey, I could do this too. So that's what kind of how I caught the bug, and ever since then, I knew that what I had to do.
That's wonderful. What challenges did you face transitioning to an entirely different field of medicine? And how often did you have to overcome them?
So the challenge is, from practicing medicine the way we do in this country, where it's insurance based, we're asking patients to accept what we tell them they need to do, and then somebody else is paying for it. So and with this cosmetic medicine, I had to make a complete switch in the way that I approach the patients because they were paying for it themselves.
Right.
So when I know the patient's going to be paying for it, I have to make sure that they get their money's worth because they're spending their hard-earned money for me to do something for them. And I think that was probably, of all the things, the most difficult change, actually asking somebody to pay me for my work. But I think in the long run, it's actually a better system where the patient, has a um, has some, is in the game, like
Hmm.
some skin in the game because
Right.
they're paying for it. Like you have that communication. Um, I'm thinking about this procedure. Do you think that? And then, I don't just, oh, I'm the doctor. You're going to do this. I tell them, well, this is what I would recommend for you because this and this. And the patient might come back and say, well, that's not something that I can really afford to do at this time. And then we have to come up with solutions for them. So, so it's a different way of practicing. And the other thing that I had to kind of get over was the fact that, I was going from actually doing things where we were saving lives and things like that to something that seemed more superficial. But we'll get into this. Now I've found out that this is actually, there's so many things that I can do now that in terms of helping people that I wasn't able to do when I was tied down by traditional medicine.
And I think most doctors should, if anything falls under elective, have that approach and that mindset that you have. Almost like a collaboration. It's collaborative in respect compared to, when a doctor says you have to have this done. This is not elective. If you want to anything that's elective, having that approach is really, I think, important.
Yeah, I find that in this field that patients play a much bigger role in their own care,
Hmm.
in directing what they want.
So specifically, what is autocore and how does it differ from traditional fillers or injectables?
Autocore is a technique that I came up with. So it involves using platelet-rich plasma, PRP, which is made from your own blood. And we've developed a technique where we can use the plasma portion of it and solidify it into a gel so that we can add volume as well as regenerative effects from the platelets. So we can now have a natural way to replace fillers that are artificial. So people are looking for something that's more natural,
Hmm.
and Autocore is a system, a collection of protocols that I came up with to give a more natural approach to looking younger.
That's amazing.
I know people who are connected to your work and know you well and have said that you are very honest and very conservative when it comes to a procedure that you feel that they may not be ready for at that point, which I think that's kind of unusual because I know there's, a number of doctors who would not approach it that way, which is wonderful for the client because you develop this trusting relationship, and you know that you have that person's best interest at heart. And that's just, when you hear that about a doctor, that's a lovely thing.
Well, thank you. And that's again goes back to my my experience as a traditional internal medicine doctor. So we always want to do what's right for the patient, and sometimes the patients will ask for things that is not the right thing for them. You have to be able to tell them no. In fact, often people look at celebrities who have all the money in the world and they look awful because they were overdone or they had some procedures that they really should not have had. And you think, who's the doctor that did that to them? Why would they go to someone like that? Right. So, but I can see how that happens, because imagine if Madonna was my patient and she said, I want you to do this. And this is, I want you to, I think she looks great now, but, there are times when people, wondered, why did you do that? So if she wanted like big, huge lips and I didn't feel that that was the right look for her, and I said no, what is she going to do? She's just going to go somebody else, and I lose Madonna as my patient, So I think that's why a lot of doctors feel like they have to kind of do what the patient wants them to do if they're a celebrity, and even if they feel that it's not the right thing. So I think that's why a lot of the celebrities end up looking like they do.
I saw an article last week or so, and it said Americans are overlooking like the Kardashians. I think when it comes to these procedures, trendy is not the best approach. I think you would agree, because like fashion, trends go out of style, so
it's like those loops that people put in their ears,
the gauges.
Yeah. I mean, they think that it looks great now, but like when it goes out of fashion, like what do you do with that big loose skin? And it's very hard to correct that.
And I would not want to be the person saying no to Madonna. Incredibly talented, beautiful, amazing artist, but I would not want to say no to her. So, for people unfamiliar with platelet-rich plasma, PRP, how would you describe its role in aesthetic procedures?
So PRP, it's been around for decades, and the veterinarians have embraced it. The dentists have been using it, and
wow,
they've been using it for putting in implants and things like that to help the bone heal. And then it became something that was used for healing injuries, and it really caught the attention of the medical community when athletes started using it for healing injuries, getting them back into the game. So most traditional doctors kind of poo-pooed it for the longest time, saying that, oh, this is just pixie dust. It's not real. But when athletes were using it and, they'd have injuries and they'd be back in the game playing, patients were asking their doctors, hey, can I get that too? I heard about this PRP thing. And some forward-thinking orthopedists started looking into it and using it and found that, hey, this stuff actually works. And it, in the aesthetics field, I mean, we're all about like creating controlled injury. That's how we make new skin, new collagen. We create a controlled injury, whether it's with chemical peels or lasers. We create a controlled injury so that the body heals. It tricks the body into healing and forming new collagen. So how does that do that? Well, when you have an injury, your platelets are the first responders. We learned that in high school biology.
Right.
The platelets will come and it'll cause a clot to stop the bleeding. So, but now we know that the platelets do so much more they play such a bigger role in healing than just stopping the bleeding. Because what actually happens is the platelets are a storehouse for all these incredible growth factors that get released when the platelets come in contact with an inflammation or injury. And when these growth factors get released, it sends a signal for stem cells to come to the area and start repairing, regenerating new tissue. So that's how it works. So when we realized that that's what platelets were doing, then we thought, well, we can use this to help speed up the healing. So my first time using PRP on one of my patients was, I heard that PRP was great for like healing. So I did a laser resurfacing. Usually it's weeks of downtime with laser resurfacing. You get all scabby and it takes weeks to heal. So I had a patient who had a CO2 laser resurfacing where you burn off the surface of the skin. And she had it done once before and she wanted to do it again. And so we did it. And this time I said, let's try this PRP thing. And we put it on her and I did the procedure. And the next morning I get a call from her like 7 o'clock in the morning. And, it's not usually a good thing when your patient calls you.
I can only imagine.
So I see her name come up on my phone and like my heart, just sinks to my stomach. I'm like, oh no, what happened? And then I answered, and this is Dr. Song, and I'm just waiting to hear what she has to say. And she said, what did we do yesterday? And I said, we did the CO2 treatment. And this wasn't the real aggressive one. It's a lighter CO2, a fractional. So we do get downtime with the fractional, but it's not terrible. But she said, well, is it the same treatment we did last time? And I said, yes. And she said, I don't think it worked.
Oh.
And I said, what are you talking about? She says, I'm not scabbing. I'm not, my face looks normal.
Wow.
And I said, okay, what do you mean? And she said, it just looks a little red. It's not peeling or scabbing or swollen like it was last time. And I thought my laser was broken. And I thought, okay, well, why don't you come in and we'll take a look. So, I looked at her and sure enough, her face looked a little red, but it didn't look like she had a CO2 treatment. And we said, let's just see how it goes. And she healed up very rapidly. Within like less than a week, she was back to work. And then as weeks went by, she got the results that she was getting was better than when she had all the downtime and scabbing. And I thought, wow, must be something going on here. And then I realized it must be the PRP, but I wasn't sure. So the next patient, the same thing happened. They didn't get the downtime that we normally get with that treatment. And the results are again better. So I realized that this stuff really works. So now when I do a treatment like that, I always use PRP. And then from there, because I was a firm believer, I learned about some of the other innovative things that some doctors were doing. Mm-hmm. And there's a doctor down in Alabama, Dr. Runnels, who coined the name. He actually trademarked the term vampire facial and vampire facelift. And the vampire facial is where you do the microneedling and then put the PRP on the surface to allow the platelets to get absorbed into the skin through those little channels created by the needles. And this treatment became a thing. And of course, when Kim Kardashian had it done, it went viral and everybody was like asking for it. So I had to go down there and learn this procedure from Dr. Runnels. So I went to Alabama and learned the procedure. And that really changed the way that I practice because I think that's the point where I went from just doing aesthetics to incorporating really regenerative stuff. Because in addition to the vampire facial, he taught me the vampire facelift, where you combine PRP with fillers to enhance the effect of the fillers more naturally. And then he was also doing some really crazy stuff with it. He was doing some sexual medicine, the O shot and P shot, that I wasn't really interested in doing anything, below the neck in my aesthetics procedures. But because I was doing PRP treatments, patients were asking me if I did those treatments as well. And I had learned that from Dr. Runnels, so I started doing it. And that's a significant part of my practice now too. And Charles and I have become friends, and I actually teach for him now.
That's
and
wonderful.
we're working to make Autocore part of that vampire brand. So we're in the works of doing that.
Do you see regenerative techniques becoming more mainstream, or do you think that they'll remain specialized?
You see all these little med spas opening up now, and they're doing the Botox and fillers and IV and that kind of stuff, which is great. But I think like most of the doctors have actually moved on to doing more regenerative stuff, because I think that's where the trend is going. People are not looking to look fake anymore. They want more natural.
Dr. Song, I can see you in your quote unquote laboratory mixing and the mad scientist. But what a wonderful story. Like a happy, that's not an accident, but wasn't Botox originally created for people with migraine headaches?
No, it was actually discovered, medical use of it was discovered by an eye doctor so when like children have cross-eyed, it's like one muscle is stronger than the other. So he decided that there's this poison, this toxin that paralyzes your muscle. So he thought, what if I injected one side of the muscle with this toxin so that it paralyzes just that muscle, and then it won't pull the eye, and the eye could be straighter and the kid won't be cross-eyed. So he started doing that, and it actually worked. So they were doing treatment for patients, and then they did like a study with it to treat these type of eye disorders. And then when the studies were over, people didn't want to give up the treatment. And then they were like, why? And then they realized that people were getting this unusual side effect of their wrinkles going away in their feet.
So, oh my goodness.
That's
amazing.
Botox was discovered. And of course, Allergan was smart enough the company was smart enough to realize that, that this could be huge. I remember like when I was younger, I had contact lenses, and I remember Allergan was like an eye brand, right? For contact lens solutions and stuff like that. But they discovered that, they got the FDA clearance for using this for cosmetic use, and now they're like the biggest players.
Can you explain how SEFI fat transfers work and what makes them unique in the field of facial restoration?
Yeah, that's a Cephii. Again, that's my, I like to just take some of these procedures. I didn't invent the fat transfer, of course, but I like to kind of come up with creative ways to make it a little bit better. So what the Cephii stands for is stem cell enhanced fat induction, because when I do liposuction and fat transfers, where we take some fat and use it to augment the face and breasts and button areas like that. And but what I also found out in the process of doing the fat is that the fat is actually loaded with stem cells. It's a great source for harvesting stem cells. So I kind of discovered that by accident, because I was at at a conference, and I was looking at some liposuction equipment, and one of the people from this company that sold the equipment said, I told them, I'm not a plastic surgeon. I'm an internist. And they said, well, would you be willing to teach other doctors how to do some liposuction? And I said, well, I'm not a plastic surgeon. You probably want a plastic surgeon to teach the other doctors. And they said, well, no, because we want to teach non-plastic surgeons, and they don't want to learn from a plastic surgeon because they want someone like them to teach them. And I said, well, why do these doctors want to do that? Are they doing cosmetic? Are they doing liposuction? Are they doing, they said, no, they're doing stem cells. And I'm like, what? And they said, stem cells, that's where we can get stem cells from fat. And it made a lot of sense, because we used to think that stem cells were only found in like fetal tissue. So back in the early 90s, stem cell research. There was a moratorium on stem cell research in this country. So we weren't allowed to do any kind of stem cell stuff because people were afraid that we were going to use aborted fetuses to harvest stem cells. So other countries had kind of like got ahead of us in the research because we weren't allowed to do it. But then now we know that adults have stem cells too. Otherwise we wouldn't be alive. We need stem cells. And we've been using stem cells, like when you have cancer and you get a bone marrow transplant, that's a stem cell transplant. So there's stem cells in the bone marrow. It's a rich source of stem cells. But stem cells are all over your body, and you can harvest it from anywhere. And the easiest place to harvest a stem cell is with the fat, because most people want to get rid of the fat anyway.
Right.
You have to drill a hole in the bone in your hip to extract stem cells from your bone marrow. You can just suck out a little fat that most people want to get rid of anyway. And so people were using the fat as a source of getting stem cells. And that's what this company was doing. And they wanted me to show other doctors how to harvest the fat to get stem cells. And that's when I became like really interested in stem cells, because I said, really, I've been throwing out this fat on, I'm paying for medical waste companies to come take this fat away. And
oh my gosh,
it's like gold.
I was going to say, it's like a gold mine.
Yeah, we actually, we're starting something new now where we're actually working with a company called American Cell Technology, where they will bank your stem cells. So I send them the fat, and they extract stem cells from the fat, and then they bank it. They freeze it for you. So whenever you need stem cells, you can just, get the stem cells from the stem cell bank, just like the cord blood that they did with the babies. So that's something really exciting that we're doing.
So in a world saturated with quick fix cosmetic procedures, how do you educate? Do you have conversations with any patients in conjunction with the regenerative options? Any holistic or any other options that you discuss as you're trying to, as you said, give them options, and doing the best thing for them?
Yeah. So naturally, when I'm doing a treatment where we harvest the fat, like a liposuction or a fat transfer, I talk to them about the options, the stem cell options. And if one of my patients comes in for cosmetic thing, and then they start talking and telling me about other issues, then I can begin the conversation about stem cell treatment. So up until, this is a long story that about like back 7 years ago, stem cells were actually like, out of control, because when doctors and people discovered that all the things that stem cells can do, they were just, stem cell clinics were opening up all over the place, and to the point that they were becoming a nuisance. They were putting out ads with false advertisements claiming to cure all kinds of stuff. And, they would put full page ads out saying that it's going to cure cancer, it's going to cure Alzheimer's and all kinds of stuff, which, we hope that in the future they will, but, that it's not something that we can promise people. And the FDA took notice of that, and they realized that we got to do something about this, but it's not something that was under their jurisdiction because it's not, it's a medical procedure. FDA has jurisdiction over drugs and devices and food, but not medical procedures. So they decided that if stem cells actually can do all these things, then it's a drug. So they decided that they wanted to make it classified as a drug so that they can control it. And of course, the safety was the biggest issue, but then, there's also the profit motive, because if stem cells were being used and it very effectively can treat a lot of things like arthritis and things like that, which will cut into the profits of big pharma. So they would lobby the FDA to try to rein in the stem cell clinics. And so what happened was the FDA kind of gave warning to the clinics: you better kind of stop doing this, or find a way to self-police yourself and that kind of stuff. And nobody would pay attention because and until there were some incidents where some people lost vision, and what was happening was they were doing all kinds of things with stem cells, including injecting it into the eye to treat macular degeneration. And when you start doing things like that, you're gonna have complications. And the interesting thing is that it's such a safe treatment that nobody was really getting hurt. So the FDA was just kind of standing on the sidelines waiting for an incident. Because of all that, a lot of the doctors either went overseas or just stopped doing stem cells altogether, or did it wasn't technically illegal to do it, but it was very tricky because you didn't want to put a target.
What kind of transition beyond physical do you often see in your patients?
They come in and they're asking me to fix this little thing, and I see something else that's really obvious, and I want to be like, no, I want to fix that. But, you have to, look at the whole, it's just kind of a symptom of, you fix that little thing for them, and their whole attitude can change because it just means, something to them. In fact, I had one patient who was a widow. She was a little bit older, but she was not old by any means. And she came in because she just didn't like these number 11 lines in her. And that's really easy. You put a little Botox in there, and then, the wrinkles disappeared. And then she just realized, wow, okay. And then she asked me to do a few other things, and, nothing crazy, but what she realized is that she didn't have to be old, and she had kind of convinced herself she was an old lady, but, she just kind of got a new pep in her. The next time she came in, she was like, all right, and turned out like she was walking differently, talking differently, and, found a boyfriend.
And to you, that was so minimal to you. But what it did, the transformation and she had, though, was so monumental.
Completely different perspective on herself, which is a wonderful thing.
How do you balance innovation with patient safety and evidence-based practice? So you kind of touched upon it earlier, but I think this also falls into when someone comes in and they know what they want, and it's something that you wouldn't recommend.
It goes back to the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm. Unfortunately, in this industry, things kind of come out onto the market. Like, they'll come up with devices and treatments that, and you think that the FDA is going to be more vigilant in watching these things. But
Right.
when it comes to things like drugs, it's very hard to get past the FDA. But things like devices, there's a different process where they don't really have to go through all the stringent um, hoops that you have to go through for drugs. In fact, fillers, like the dermal fillers that we use, it's injected. So you would think that it's a drug, but they're classified as devices. And
Really?
it's, because if they were drugs, they would have to go through a much more, stricter process to get through the FDA. But devices, they just need a 501k clearance, which means they take, if there's another device similar to it, they just have to prove that it's safe and that it's similar to something else that's already existing. So that's how a lot of these devices get on the market. And once they get the FDA clearance, they will hike the price up on the device and then sell these to doctors who unknowingly think that they're buying a great device, doesn't really work that well, and yet they kind of still need to pay for it. So they'll charge patients for treatments when there's better alternatives.
As a global speaker and trainer, what trends are you seeing internationally that haven't taken off in the United States yet? Anything that stands out?
I think we're still the leaders in the world. There's a lot more weight when it comes out of the US. And part of it is because we have stricter regulations that you can't have all kinds of like crazy things go to market.
Right.
But in terms of things like stem cells and regenerative medicine, there's research being done and treatments being done outside of this country that are really incredible. And I think with the ability now to be in touch and communicate with other colleagues around the world has been such a blessing. And I think that came out of COVID when during the lockdown, one of the things that I really enjoyed during that time was connecting with colleagues around the world through Zoom. We would have conferences. We would just find other doctors with similar interests just from around the world, because like with the Zoom, it didn't matter if the block or on the other side of the world, you can just, communicate with them and just share ideas and find out what they were doing. So we kind of continued that. And I still keep in touch with a lot of these doctors from around the world. And that's just been really wonderful. And I think we've become more of a global community, at least among the scientists and the doctors. We have all these divisions politically and among, just with your neighbors, but it's really heartwarming when we get together with doctors, around the world. And even, some of the doctors from countries that we're like enemies with. I have Russian colleagues
I love that.
that we collaborate and talk about, and we don't politics
Exactly.
enter,
I'm sure that you're aware of a big trend is Korean skin care, and so you see that more as regimens versus them advancing in terms of actual procedures. Would that be your take?
I was born in Seoul in South Korea. It came when I was a child, but I'm really proud to see my own country, like what's coming out of South Korea in terms of not just cosmetic and regenerative in medicine in general. And I have colleagues in Korea right now that that are in the industry. And a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to go and visit some of the plants. One of the plants that I visited was a plant that makes exosomes, which are the growth factors that are harvested out of stem cells. And their facility was just, nothing that I've seen everything was like so like sterile and clean and just and worked. It worked so well. And, I was really impressed because, when you're purchasing products from overseas, especially biological stuff, you don't know if it's being made in
Exactly.
like garage or some,
Right.
third world, big vat, but this was really state of the art. So I think there's a lot of things being done around the world, and I can proudly say that South Korea is one of the places where a lot of the innovation is coming from now.
That's why I definitely wanted to ask you that, because I definitely wanted to hear your opinion about that. What do you think that most aesthetic practitioners are still getting wrong about anti-aging?
I think most aesthetic practitioners are still relying on synthetic products that are produced. I think what the industry has done is create commodities, and the doctors are just kind of, and this is in all of medicine. Like, I remember when the HMOs came, started taking over medicine, and they started calling us providers instead of doctors, and that's kind of how they see us. We're just the providers, the ones, to distribute their products. And I think what a lot of doctors and other practitioners have fallen into the trap of just not embracing their own skills and knowledge, just just selling what the big companies are telling you to sell. And I think that's that's where we're losing some of the innovations that could be, that the doctors could really be leading on.
You train doctors through the Advanced Aesthetics Education Group. What skills or philosophies do you emphasize most with your students?
The AAEG is an organization that I've been working with for a while, and we get a lot of new practitioners that come in through there, and they want to learn skills, and they want to learn a procedure, and they think that what they're going to learn something, and this is what they're going to like do for the rest of their career. And first thing I tell them is like, some of the stuff that I'm teaching you is going to be obsolete in a couple of years.
Right.
Okay. So you can't stop learning, learn these techniques, but you got to keep learning, and you can innovate too. And this is something that Dr. Runnels taught me that I think makes so much more sense. He said that when I teach you a procedure, I want you to learn how to do it exactly the way I do it. Okay. Because it's working for me. Okay. Once you know how to do it the way I do it, then I know that when you do it, it's going to work for you too. Okay. You might have an idea, even as I'm teaching you, that, oh, I got a better way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to do it a little bit differently. You can do that, but not before you learn how I did it, because I know that it works for me. Okay. So if you do it exactly the way I taught you, it's going to work for you too. And if you have a better way, you can try that later.
Right.
Okay. And if that doesn't work, you can always come back to what I taught you, because I know that's going to work. And if you find something better, then maybe you can come back and teach me.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What emerging technology or breakthrough excites you the most about aesthetic medicine?
The stem cells, of course, that's kind of like my baby. But the other thing that's really exciting to me now is the technology, and how we can connect, the advances in technology with the treatments and therapies that we have. The AI technology,
Mhm.
I think that is a game changer.
I can only imagine.
Even though AI is not going to do the procedures, it's such a tremendous tool. It helps me to innovate, find out what other people are doing, and also speak to my patients. In fact, I made I made a clone of myself using AI.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
Love
uh,
it.
I uploaded everything that I could find that I ever wrote, any videos that I made, all the talks that were ever recorded, and I uploaded it to the AI. So it has all that data of me to draw from. And I made it available for my patients to ask the AI. So they can call, there's a number, or they can go to my website and they can ask the AI anything about cosmetics, regenerative medicine. And if it's in the database, it'll answer exactly the way that I would. And what's really neat is that it's not like if you go to a chat GPT, it's going to go through the whole internet and you can get all kinds of answers and hallucinations. Of course, it'll make stuff up and tell you. So you gotta be careful of that.
Right.
But with my AI, it's only drawing from the information that I uploaded there.
If you hadn't had an answer or it wasn't something that you covered, what does it tell them?
It tells them it's not in the database.
Okay.
They should contact me directly. And it does go outside, it does use its outside knowledge to kind of extrapolate some stuff. So we do have to be a little bit careful, but for the most part, it's very accurate. So especially some of the things related to the sexual medicine, people don't necessarily want to talk to a person initially
Right.
because they're a little embarrassed. But the AI is great for that. People talk to the AI and ask all kinds of questions, and that's just the way that I would.
What a fantastic idea. I mean, what a great idea on so many different levels in terms of future generations. That, that amount of information. Okay, you are a little bit of a mad scientist. I think I say that with all love and respect. That is just wonderful. Okay, here's a big question. Do you believe that we will one day be able to fully reverse aging? And should we?
There's people scientists that are very confident that there are people alive today that will live to be 180. So
That's incredible.
yeah, that's not like, some science fiction. That's something that a lot of people are very confident that we can achieve. So can we go beyond that? I don't really see why not. But the other question, should we? I think that brings up a whole,
Oh, of
what do we
course.
do about overpopulation, about, and who gets to live forever? Like, does everybody get to live forever, or only people who have the money and resources?
Yeah, it does. It's sort of opening up Pandora's box of questions, so to speak.
How has public perception shifted over the years in your experience when it comes to cosmetic procedures like Botox and fillers and facelifts? And what role do you think social media and celebrity culture in particular have played in destigmatizing or overhyping these procedures?
I think there was a time when any kind of cosmetic procedure there was a big stigma and people were very hush hush about it. They'd have something done and they'd hide out for months to recover, and so that nobody knows that they had it done. And then the trend has really shifted to where it's almost a badge of honor. Like you go to some places, um, like Miami or Beverly Hills, and the people actually they look different because of all the work that they've had done, and depending on which doctor you go to, you you could almost tell like who their doctor is by the way they look.
In a world saturated with quick fix cosmetic procedures, how do you educate patients about more holistic, longer term regenerative options? Which I think you would be very big on.
Social media and many different avenues of being able to get the word out. And quite frankly, this podcast you're doing, this kind of stuff, where I think you're doing such a service. I'm
Thank you.
really looking forward to hearing all the other interviews that you have, because I think this is a way we can educate people about things that they may not normally be exposed to. So I think this is this is a great way.
Well, thank you.
I
That's
appreciate
lovely.
that.
Thank you.
If you could shift the public's perception of beauty or aging in one major way, what would it be?
The perception of beauty needs to, people need to embrace all the differences that we have. Beauty does not necessarily, is not only for like a 20-year-old. Somebody who's 50 should not try to look like they're 20. I think people should find what's beautiful at for their own age, and who really decides what beauty is. I think beauty, it should not just be about, how many wrinkles you have or don't have. I think there's I'd love for people to embrace all the different ways that someone can be beautiful.
Dr. Song, we have arrived at the significant 7, which is how we close out each episode. Each guest gets the same 7 questions. Are you ready for the significant 7, Dr. Song?
Okay, I'm ready.
If you had to choose one word that holds the most significance in your life, whether it defines you, guides you, or challenges you, what would it be and why?
Well, I would have to say gratitude. Yeah, I think I'm getting a little emotional here because it's been such a wonderful journey, and to be able to do all the things that I do, and have had the opportunity to do it, and to just have met so many different people, and and be in a field where we can actually help people feel better, look better, and just make a difference. I think that's such a wonderful gift that that not everybody gets to have. So I think that would be the word that comes to mind.
So my top 3 favorites, definitely. What is the most significant piece of advice you have ever received?
I don't know if this is advice, but so I'm a Christian, and as a Christian, we want to follow Christ, and I think the advice, or maybe even command, that he gave us as his followers, was to go and be the salt of the earth.
Be the salt of the earth.
And I think if we all try to live in a way where we can kind of enhance other people that we touch and come in contact with, it'll be a much better world for all of us.
What is the most significant risk you've ever taken?
Leaving my medical practice and doing something completely different, because I had practiced for 15 years and I had made a comfortable life for myself, and to follow my passion and do something that was risking a very stable thing that, I think for most of us, the risk is, it's easy when things are awful, that you go and try something different, because you have to get out of it. It could only get better. But when things are pretty good, but there's something else that you want, to go for that and leave something comfortable, I think that's the risk that most people are afraid to take. And I almost didn't, but I'm really grateful that I did.
What significant moment in your life changed how you see the world?
A few years ago, I had a little health scare where I found out I had some plaques in my heart, and I was always healthy, never had any issues with health, and I never thought about, like, the future in terms of time being limited. But when I had that, when I found out that I had that, um, I mean, fortunately, we were able to, put a stent in and correct it. But it, it gave me a whole different perspective in life, and I knew that I can't, just look, just live for, whatever, just keep doing. And I have to be more intentional about what I'm doing for my family, for my patients, for my friends. And I wanted to start being intentional and actually making a difference, um, and leaving a legacy, and had to kind of think about what that legacy is. I think that was kind of a turning point in how I looked at the future.
What significant relationship has shaped you the most?
I mean, of course, my lovely wife, Stephanie. That's, I mean, I'm very, honored to have been married to the same woman for over 20 years now. And, yeah, um, and my, uh, and my kids, we've, and I think that's, those are like the most important things in my life. And, again, just gratitude. I'm grateful for having those relationships, and, I don't want to ever take that for granted, you know, and of course, my friends like you.
It's wonderful. Children will definitely probably be the greatest teachers we will ever have. Children change perspective on everything. I mean, that's just, my own personal opinion, but they definitely broaden your horizons in many, many ways. So, what is the most significant truth you have come to understand about yourself?
Well, I think the most significant truth is that, I'm just a part of this whole cycle of life and the universe, and I just need to make the most out of the time that I'm here, and hope that I can influence others too.
What is the most significant life lesson you've ever learned?
If you don't take a chance, you know, then then it's 100% that it's not going to happen.
You worded that so beautifully that it's one thing to make a huge change in your life when things are just not working and everything's gone awry. It's another thing when you're very comfortable, everything's going exactly in the right direction, but you have there's that something inside of you that says there's more. And I'm just so grateful, that we have had the chance to hear just a glimpse of your story in your life. You are truly a beautiful, wonderful human being. And your patients are very
Thank you so
blessed, very lucky to have you. So
Thank you, Signy and Tyler. This was
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that our viewers get to see, because this show is about the significance that each and every
mhm.
person brings to the fabric of our world, and in ways that sometimes people don't feel that they are significant. That's what this show is highlighting. You in particular, some of your significance has been tangible.
Mhm.
People have been able to walk out and feel that, and you've been able to see it. So I think our viewers will walk away very enlightened with everything that you shared today. And I want to let everybody know that to learn more information about Dr. Song, his practice, and to check out his new AI,
I'm going to.
do do we call him a online consultation in a way, or
Yeah, I mean, you can ask it anything, and I'm actually uh, trying an experiment where I'm gonna load it up with some like more personal stuff, and I think I'm gonna load this interview onto the AI,
oh,
because
hey, that would be
there
amazing.
you had such, wonderful, thoughtful questions. And if I put that into the AI, it's just, some stuff, that kind of stuff that's not in there, that people can can see when they ask the AI questions.
That would be amazing.
Incredible.
By the time this airs, we'll have all your links, where they can follow you, where they can check out the AI and learn obviously more about you and your practice. And Dr. Song, it was our pleasure to have you on The Significance.
Well, the pleasure was all mine, and I am really looking forward to seeing the interview and the other ones that you're doing.
Well, thank you,
Thank
Dr. Song, so much for being with us today. What an incredible amount of information you retain in that perfectly shaped head of yours. I just, you know, what a wonderful thing. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Until next time, everyone, take care.